I'm just a little starstruck, so I have to get cozy. So good to see all of you. Thank you all so much for coming and coming to this panel, ready to listen to some really awesome stories from amazing storytellers who love the planet. I'd love to start by having each of you briefly introduce yourselves.
My name is Rachel Larsen. I'm one of the co-creators of Tiny Chef.
Jason Kolowski, also co-creator of the Tiny Chef.
Hi, everyone. I am the chef behind Cena Vegan. I am Carmen Santillan. Pleasure to be here. What an honor.
Hi, I'm Maggie Baird. I am the founder of Support and Feed, which we just saw, and the host of Climate Kitchen. I also work in the music industry for the last 10 years, trying to make the music industry more sustainable.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hernandez, and I run the platform Queer Brown Vegan, which is a climate media platform. So thank you.
There you go. Okay, so we know that what we choose to eat is a deeply personal choice, and it's also emotional. It's tied to family, memory, and celebration. How do each of you see the connection between food and identity, especially in the context of plant-based or eco-friendly eating?
Yeah, I mean, I think food, it's so personal, and it's all those things you mentioned. And it kind of makes me really happy that I am living in this era, because it's so easy to recreate your childhood meals with plant-based options. So you can still get that nostalgia for your home recipes. It's really easy to swap out more earth-friendly ingredients. But yeah, it just makes me really happy to live in this era.
Me too.
Yeah, I second that, and yeah, I mean, it's just things have just gotten so much easier over the last 12 years since I switched to a plant-based diet, and just love identifying that way, and went from being somebody who identified himself as like the king of the barbecue and drinking beer and stuff like that, to being the king of the barbecue with vegetables and drinking beer. So, so it's all kind of worked out.
I think for me, it was so important to recreate everything that I grew up eating. I didn't want to give it up just because I was deciding to be vegan. Plus, the recipes that Cena Vegan shares, the food that we offer, these are recipes that came from my mom and my grandmother. And it was so important to me to be able to share those recipes, that food with everyone, so that we could all enjoy delicious vegan Mexican food, but not feel like you have to miss out on anything. You don't. And I'm so grateful that so many of you have had the opportunity, because it is true. Every celebration, every important thing that happens in our family's life, especially in my family, it's all centered about food. My grandmother's favorite menudo recipe, or my mom's pozole recipe, everything features so much in the celebrations in my family. And to be able to hang on to those memories and to that love is an incredible thing to be able to do. And to do it plant-based is just a great bonus.
I've actually been thinking of this question a lot, because I think what I've learned about people's connection to food culturally, I've learned externally, because I grew up in the 70s, and my food culture in Western Colorado was like, canned peaches and, the food culture wasn't that exciting. We were excited to get a TV dinner. And also from a very young age, as long as I could remember, I actually did not want to eat animals. So I didn't grow up with a real, attachment to that. I guess I did grow up to an attachment to dairy and to eggs, because I was a serious baker. So that took me a little bit longer. But it turns out that's literally the easiest place to substitute plant-based cooking. I mean, you literally cannot tell the difference. So, but what I've learned is through Support and Feed and through just working with communities, it is such a deep empowering feeling of connection we have. And sometimes people use the word culture, but they're really just talking about their life, right? Because you could go back 1 or 2 generations. It could be a completely different diet. So we kind of defend it in a way that is not actually accurate. So I think it's sort of dealing with our actual experience and our psychological experience, our psychological attachment and our beliefs of how it connects us to our immediate family. And part of that is bringing the story of what your other ancestors might have eaten. You know, 2 generations back, there might have been a lot fewer animal products. So it's a kind of a deeper, more nuanced conversation than I think we sometimes give it credit for.
Yeah, I would say, when I was studying environmental science, I learned about, the whole issues with our food system today, but I link it back to also labor. So my grandfather was part of the Bracero program, which is the program that recruited Mexican farmers, usually in poor regions, recruited them to the US during the World War II labor shortage. They were exploited, and one of the things that my grandfather did was document some of the cruel types of injustices that he had faced. And as an environmental scientist, I learned that, I want to save the planet, but I started to realize, we have devalued, humans, non-humans, the flora, the fauna, the fungi. And as an environmentalist, I was taking classes on fisheries, agroeconomics, forestry, and I was like, how are we supposed to save this environment when the only way that we see something as valuable in our society is based on the economic GDP output that the highest amount of resources material gives us, versus what about the other species that have a symbiotic relationship to the tree or to the fish or to the river? And I kind of became disillusioned that the way that I was being trained as a scientist was just to focus on, yes, the solutions and policies, but this whole devaluing of sacred knowledge that was happening in my field. And so when I started to tap into plant-based or veganism, I remember I told my friends in college, I was like, I'm gonna go vegan. And they laughed at me. And they were like, good luck. And I was like, you'll see. Now it's been 8 years that I've been vegan. But I would say that something deeper that I started to realize is in my own cultural heritage as from Mexico and my parents and grandparents, is Mexico is a very large mycophilic society. There is over 450 edible mushrooms that are taken either through gourmet or medicinally. And I started to kind of recognize this co-optation of what is a traditional Mexican diet or lifestyle when we know that there's many indigenous cultures and regions in the area. And I just started to kind of shift this understanding that the industries that we're faced against that are oppressing both the humans and non-human animals is directly linked to, yes, corruption, large industries, but this idea of a society in the global north that we have created to enslave people, to exploit people in labor, to displace and to create genocides of people. And so I think for me, when I look at veganism, plant-based, it was really a gateway for me to understand the extension of liberation for myself.
Okay. Rachel and Basham. Rachel and Jason. When you were creating the Tiny Chef show, what was the intention behind making Tiny Chef an herbivore? And what values did you want to instill in Chef as a character?
Yeah, I think, so about a year before Chef was created, I went vegan, and I was very hot to trot to try and inspire everyone in my family, all my friends, and I wasn't super effective. It's hard not to get into arguments. And so I just felt like a better way to do it might be creating a character that really led by example. And Jason's been vegan for way longer than I was, and Ozzy, who's our third co-creator, she's a vegetarian. And I think we all share this kind of compassionate way of living, and I think it was always just it's always been in the back of our head. It's not really something we lead with like a message, and then this is the being that's sending that message. I think we just wanted to create a character that we wanted to exist in the world, and I think subconsciously we fed him these things that we feel, just living a really compassionate life, being joyous, being altruistic. We like to think he's like a cross between a kid and a grandma and a millennial. He's got the innocence of a kid, and I think most of us can relate. As kids, at some point you go vegetarian when you realize what's happening. And then you kind of build up excuses, I think, as you get older, and because you want to do what you want to do. But I think if you're able to kind of peel back that grown-up viewpoint and really get back to what you were like as a kid, I think that's what Chef is and he represents. So I think we just wanted to kind of put something into the world that we felt like we needed, and it seemed like other people needed him too. And I think because he doesn't really lead with that messaging, I think more people come to the table and then they realize, oh, he's plant-based, huh? And they see him doing litter cleanups for his birthday. Every birthday he does a beach cleanup. But I think he approaches everything with love and with positivity, and I think that's a really good, just little like tiny superhero to kind of look to as like a little beacon of light, and I think it helps open people's mind to maybe mimic him a little bit. Yeah.
Nailed it.
No notes? Thank you. Maggie, with Climate Kitchen and Support and Feed, you're reaching audiences beyond traditional climate spaces, which is so exciting. But the transition to more eco-friendly food choices can sometimes feel controversial, especially when we start to question someone's personal habits. No one likes to be shamed or insulted. So how can we make that connection between climate and plant-based eating in a way that feels inclusive and kind?
I think I have gone through every phase of trying to communicate. I think I was, for many years, an apologist, or like a don't mind me kind of vegetarian, vegan, like, oh, don't mind me, I'll bring a salad, and I'll eat the cinnamon rolls that I made and the vegan quiche that I made and nothing else, that kind of person. And then I was like, why am I apologizing for, something I really, really believe in? But the truth is, it's just sadly not effective to just tell the truth. I wish it were more effective to just tell the truth. For many people it is. For many people you can, watch a video or learn something and go, boom, I change because I saw that. But for most people, cognitive dissonance comes, they feel the cognitive dissonance and they change their belief instead of changing their behavior. And so just on effectiveness alone, if you put aside everything else, it is more effective to be welcoming. It is more effective to say, just start with one plant-based meal a day, or a day a week, or whichever your entry point is, and welcome to the party. And I think the thing I've really learned recently, which I think I've maybe been, I'm gonna actually say selfish about, is I don't think I've been very good about sharing the joy that I have from living this way. I think that, people see it as like you're giving something up or you're sacrificing, and I'm realizing I have to say, I think my life is so much better for this. And I want you to join me because I want your life to be better too. And so I'm trying to do a better job of that, and I'm trying to present this world, and with Climate Kitchen, of look how good life can be. Look how great it can be to be compassionate, to our planet, compassionate to humans, compassionate to animals. Just to be compassionate feels so good. So I think that's sort of the mission that Support and Feed is on, to try to just get people to join the party, and certainly Climate Kitchen to also give people the tools and to give people the feeling that we do have power. And at this time when we feel so powerless, and I'm just going to take this moment to just say, how great is the Hollywood Climate Summit?
Yes, so great.
I mean, to have so many conversations about food, because we all know that food has been left out of the conversation for so many years at all climate, and yet it's the low-hanging fruit of the climate movement. So kudos all around for that. But yeah, so that's the mission. Give people the tools, make them feel empowered, and let them share the joy.
Yes, amazing mission. Everyone needs joy. Everyone needs it, especially now. Isaias, you've platformed plant-based eating as a part of a deeper system change with your media sensation, Queer Brown Vegan. So, what intersections are you working to communicate between climate, food systems, and personal identity?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I just finished up my debut book, Dear Environmentalist. I'll be released next year. And we have a specific section on food systems. And, when I was writing the book, I kind of had to really confide of, like, some of the ways that I've learned through, like, a ancestral way, but also cultural way. And one of the things that I remember learning in undergrad is the term food sovereignty. And I was like, what do you mean food needs sovereignty? Like, you could just go to a grocery store and get whatever you want. And I started to realize that, food sovereignty is beyond more just the access for food, but reclaiming the power that those who grow, produce, tend to the land have rights and ownerships in terms of being able to be paid equitably, being able to ensure that they have a livelihood and future for generations, and that they're not destroying the environment. And I think when it comes to the larger conversation around regenerative agriculture, one of the reasons why I never really identified with that word is that it often focuses on just the ecological side. Like, let's just talk about the soil. Let's just talk about food. But let's not talk about anything politics. And I felt that I could not separate that into my work as someone who is a racialized person in America, and as someone who has seen the devastation effects of what the climate crisis has done to not just my families, like why they had to leave their farmlands, but how it's affected a lot of indigenous farmers, and also the term peasant farmers. And I want to say that the word peasant isn't used as a derogatory term, but some farmers that label themselves as peasant farmers reclaim it as the closest and ecologically rich relationship that they have to the land. And that, to me, is seen as more wealthy in our society than what we are. So I think when it comes to plant-based eating, or trying to understand, like, what's the larger system that we do, is like, as an environmental educator, like, my role is to inform people about the historical context of why our food systems are this way. No, it's not just, well, it's a human issue that these agriculture and fishery industries are created. If you look back at history, colonizers and settler colonialism saw the land as a commodity, saw the diets of indigenous peoples and people in Latin America, whether we had squash, fungi, fungi like maize, which is corn, as inferior, and injected this ideology. It's like, we need wine, dairy, cheese, like their diet is not adequate to the Europeans' diet. And so I think that's where I started to also deconstruct my relationship of, like, where am I sourcing food beyond this idea of, like, I'm just vegan. Like, okay, but what are you doing to contribute to local food systems, to support farmers, to support these types of mechanisms, even if it's a messy system that I know that I can't get out of? And so that's where I think Queer Brown Vegan really came as a platform, from just editorial and to recipe making, and also showing people that there's so many unique ways, whether it's fermentation, foraging. I like to forage for mushrooms a lot. And, like just finding ways in your relationship of being and challenge people of like, what are you doing critically to think deeper beyond these systems? Like, yes, we can agree the soil is contaminated. Yes, big agriculture is an issue, but like, think deeper. Where are these systems coming from? And I think a lot of people feel this sense of uncomfortableness. And so I think in the book, I kind of talk about my own reckoning relationship of even finding it hard to be vegan when certain communities did not see my identity. And were like, race doesn't matter. And I'm like, yes, it does, because that's where I come from, and the land is contaminated and has faced a lot of injustices. So, yeah.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Carmen, Cena vegan, which I'm very proud to say is one of my favorite foods of all time, because I am not a chef. I do not a home cook. My wife is, but anyway, absolutely delicious way to share something familiar with people, the neighborhood taco stand. And you've made it accessible to all diets. When food is this specifically tied to cultural identity and specific flavors and textures we expect, how have you approached communicating the authenticity of Cena's menu to customers who might not have considered eating plant-based before? And have you been surprised by any responses?
I think that we never really set out to push the fact that it was vegan. We just wanted to share our tacos with everyone. Yeah. And one of the things that most of us that cook vegan food is all the sauces, all the spices, the method, everything that you do to create the food creates that dish. Now, what meats a substitute you want to use is kind of irrelevant, because everything else is making that dish. And so when you present somebody with a deliciously looking taco that looks like any other taco that you have had that maybe wasn't vegan, your eyes are like, I want that. And once you start eating it, the textures, the flavors, the spices, all of these things are the same. And you're enjoying this delicious taco, and you forget that that is not meat. And that is the way that we love to do it. We just love to show you the food. We just want to share it with you. And that's all really you need.
Cena vegan. Yeah.
Cena vegan.
They keep the entire Tiny Chef studio fed. Like, we order it all the time.
It brings the joy, all right? So good. Maggie, one thing you've pointed out is that people eat bad food all the time, gross, saturated with garbage and not tasty things, right? Not rotten, just bad. So when someone has one bad vegan meal, suddenly veganism itself gets blamed. There's a lot of great vegan food options now more than ever. Why do you think plant-based foods seem to be held to a completely different standard culturally?
Well, because you want to convince yourself of things, right? So if you have a bad meal and it happens to be vegan, you're like, well, that validates my preconceived idea, and so I'm going to do that. Whereas if you have bad food that's not vegan, you're like, oh, it's just a bad chef. But what that means is, for Support and Feed, we are very careful that every meal we serve is amazing and delicious, because we want people to break through those barriers and have that super positive experience. One of the things we did on Billy's tour was we have requirements of all the venues that they have at least 3 plant-based mains. And that's not popcorn peanuts, but fully mains. And around the world, that can be very hard to do. Many of the venues went fully plant-based, however. And then what we've done is we've added culinary trainings. So Support and Feed and Greener by Default, with help from Live Nation, we do these culinary trainings, and we help the chefs know not only why they should have plant-based meals, how they can save money, of course save their carbon footprint, but how they can sell them more, how they can make them more delicious, how they they can name them, how they can title them, where they can place them in the menu. And that really makes a difference because everyone is coming at with a lot of bias, and you have to understand subconscious bias follows all of us, included wherever we go, and we're looking to dismiss something. So for better or worse, vegan food has to be better to break through those barriers. Kind of sucks, but it's true.
Hey, it's the job. You're doing it. It's amazing. Okay. Once again, Glacial Invasion, I have another question for you, and this one's very close to my heart because it's about inspiring kids and kids programming, which a lot of times adults don't relate to. But Tiny Chef is fun for the whole family, and I think really does touch people. And what's so fascinating about Tiny Chef and very moving is that he's not trying to make a statement. He just is compassionate by default, which is clearly pretty amazing. And I'm wondering why you feel like it's so important to make it that life where he doesn't have to make a choice, he just is this, and how it inspires people and kids, and how kids can possibly inspire their adult friends, the choices that they make about plant-based eating.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we never really set out to, target a kid audience. It just kind of went that way. We set out just to make ourselves laugh and send a message we wanted to send, and it worked for children as well. And I mean, I think Rachel touched on it earlier. It's just Chef is just so compassionate. He can't. It's not like he chooses to not eat animals. He can't imagine a world where that's even an option. And yeah, it just felt right that this is something that we're not, beating anybody over the head with. It's just that's what the way Chefy is, and I mean it's not just his diet. I mean just the way he treats the world. He's just as if like an alien came to this planet and is just bewildered that we treat animals like that. It's hard to fathom, and Chefy just couldn't possibly even comprehend that's how we feed ourselves. So we just stay true to that. And I mean there's things too. I remember one time Rach took a photo of him. We were at like some garden center or something, and there was like a bird cage, and she took a picture of him like trying to open the cage, and I was like, I hate like people who have bird cages like in their yard or whatever. And I was like, God, yeah, like Chef would be like, why is this bird in a cage? It doesn't make sense, And I love the fact, his innocence of that. That's like, he's not, lecturing anybody as much as like I want to personally. Chef does it. And I think it's important that some people do that, and I love the fact that like Billy, what she said, in the interview a couple weeks ago, it just went super viral. Is like really just like upset people as it should, but it got so many people talking about it. Like you can't, love animals and eat them. You just can't, And I think it's awesome. It's so good that certain people are able to use their platform to speak like that. But Chef does it in a subtle way.
I'll say really quick, like what Nickelodeon did was actually very cool. Like they never questioned he was plant-based, and every recipe he made on the show was plant-based. And I just thought it was very cool that introducing kids to plant-based cooking, that they, it sort of seeps in. Like, I want to make the cashew cheese that Chef is making, like as if like we're not drawing attention to it. We're just like, these are all the recipes. And I think kids are so open-minded and don't have like any build-up of ideas of how the world should be. And I think it was very cool that Nick like supported it. And we grew up on Mr. Rogers and like these shows that just show these amazing, these like idols who are doing good in the world. And I think we need it now a lot, especially for the next generation, because they are going to be handed all of this. You're welcome. So like they are going to have to kind of pick up the torch, and like, I think we need to evolve and really address our situation now, which, I think needs addressing. So I think getting kids involved early is really important.
Awesome. Yes, definitely. And making him the mayor of Pioneer Town and beyond. Every city. Every city. Okay, we're going to wrap up with Carmen. Tiny Chef and Maggie teamed up to make a video featuring Cena Vegan's delicious food. How do you see storytelling opportunities like this as a way to communicate the variety of plant-based food options that are available, and will we get to try any?
I think storytelling is extremely important when it comes to food because we all learned about the different dishes. Like in my family, I knew where the dishes came from. I knew which family member created them and the memories attached to those dishes. So I think storytelling is a great way of doing it. Sometimes what I do see in shows is that being vegan is a punchline. And honestly, that hurts. I think there's a better way to just make plant-based or vegan normalized, mainstream. Let's not talk about it. Cena Vegan has the opportunity to cater a lot of weddings. We get to be present at a family's happiest occasions. And one of the things that they always worry about were like, well, the guests are not vegan. Are they going to be bothered by the fact that we're serving plant-based? It's like, no, before I was vegan, I never went to a wedding where they told me, by the way, this is real chicken. No. What you want to do is serve great food. It happens to be vegan. That's just it. But it's great food.
Absolutely. All right. I think, want me to keep going? What's happening here? I think there's something happening. Okay, well, let's do for each of you. Rachel, you said previously, oh, I see. Oh, we got more time. There, just look right there. Okay, thanks, everyone. We're all on the same page now. Rachel, you said previously that you were worried your world would get smaller when you went vegan, but instead it opened up an entirely new world. This just makes me think about what you said about it's so joyful. It can be very joyful and fun to be vegan, new recipes, new restaurants, just can be awesome. So for each of you, how do you think we can rewrite the narrative on veganism, of what you've touched on already, and make plant-based eating, even for just one meal a week, more accessible, exciting, and familiar, what we like to call, in my home, cozy veganism.
Wait. I'm so sorry. This is totally inappropriate, but I believe there's a surprise?
Yeah.
And we should go to that.
Yes, but I don't know where the surprise is. I'm
What?
surprised.
Maybe it could be coming through the aisles?
Oh,
Do you want to give context? Oh boy, just like we planned, everything is okay.
I had
Thank
no
you so
idea
much.
what it was.
Enjoy the surprise.
There it is. Looks familiar and exciting to me. Woo! And there's guac. I thought it was just salsa. Look at that. Everyone, please enjoy chips, salsa, and guac from Cena Vegan and Carmen today. Yay. Really surprising. Should we keep talking? Are you all going to chat now and get to know each other? You love it? Does everybody love it? Yay! I'm not going to tell you it's plant-based. Just enjoy. This can be your one meal this week.
Can I add that I think one of the things we need to do better is making the case for farmers. And
Here.
I think the farming industry and people's views of the farming industry through children's books on up has been co-opted by the animal agriculture industry, but the truth is our farmers are really, really suffering. And we need to identify farmer support with eating fruits and vegetables and grains and peas and seeds and stop focusing on crops that are grown for cattle. And we need to own that more And I think we could all do a better job of telling stories about farmers and fruits and vegetables. I have an apron made for me because I always say I'm an unpaid publicist for fruits and vegetables. But I think that's what we need to be. They don't have a PR agent. They don't have the billions of dollars at the animal agriculture industry. So we need to claim that back. Claim back farmers as plant-based.
Did they interview you for the job? Yes. The vegetables and the fruits? Yeah, you got
They
it.
did, yeah, my beets were talking.
That's great. Sounds like a fun conversation. That'd be awesome. All right, so I want to thank all our panelists today. Thank you so much for coming, sharing your stories and your hearts with us. And thank you all for being here, for eating the food, for caring about the climate and the animals and the environment and each other. Thank you.